This is a podcast about both having autism and living with someone who has autism. My mom is Sonya, and I'm Josh, and this is Josh Has Autism.
Hey everybody, welcome to Josh Has Autism.
Hello.
So glad that you're here with us today.
Yeah.
Yeah, Josh, it's beautiful outside.
It's too hot.
Is it too hot?
Oh my gosh, it's too hot.
I think it's beautiful. It's a motorcycle riding day.
Good for you.
You're so funny. You're so funny. All right, I'm going to get to it.
Okay. You say it every podcast.
I know, but I also say that it's going to be quick. And, it never is.
It also kind of meanders sometimes to get to your questions or whatever.
What are you saying, Josh? What you just said, I meander, right?
Yeah.
All right. Here's my question for you.
Mm-hmm.
And here's the meandering part. That I meet a lot of people that when they find out that I have a son that has autism, that they will say some things to me that don't quite fit. Like they don't really understand what it's about.
Right.
And it made me think that, we might have touched on this a little bit in other podcasts, but I really want to know what you've dealt with before, what you have experienced that is a misconception that people have. And I'll put it in a different way and then ask you, this is the question.
Okay. What
are some things that you feel that people that don't have autism don't understand about people that do have autism that are hugely inaccurate?
Okay.
Okay, there you go.
So, I can think of at least two of them off the top of my head.
Okay.
One is that autism doesn't just go away.
Right. Yeah.
It's not something that, I got better.
Yeah.
It's I'm always dealing with my thought process.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Because that's exactly what it is, or at least how I see it, or whatever. It's not something that can be disconnected from me.
Right.
It's intrinsic.
Yeah.
It's a part of me.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not something that you can just hope will go away someday.
Right.
And I've gone to church, and several times I've had friends even that would pray for me, and in doing so will pray the autism away.
Mm.
And it's like,
wow.
And it is like,
wow.
Really?
Like it's an ailment.
Yeah.
Rather than an intrinsic part of your being.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. How did that feel?
Not. It was, especially at the time, it was very irksome, I guess.
Irksome. Did it hurt your feelings?
It did. It did a little bit.
Yeah.
And it was frustrating that one of my friends who's known me would
feel that you needed to be different.
Essentially.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's very difficult to have to feel that, let alone try and comprehend.
Yeah, that like you have no idea that someone else is thinking that, and then in that moment, it's like it must have been like a light bulb going off. Like, hey, I don't need you to pray for this to go away because this is who I am.
Yeah.
People have asked me this before. What's it, what would you, rather that, what would Josh be like if he didn't have autism?
Not me.
You wouldn't be you.
Yeah.
And, it's just that simple.
Yeah.
You wouldn't be you. But that's fascinating. So the thought that you could be cured from autism.
When it's a lifelong relationship, basically. Yeah, it's always been here with me. It's always going to be here with me.
Yeah, yeah. What I would say to that is that you might feel the same things. You deal with them differently. You have learned, as you've matured, to handle a situation differently than you would have. But it still comes down to basically the same result, is that if something is too much, you want to get out of there.
Right.
You cannot stay in an environment or a situation that's uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
There's too many pressures, too much sensory overload going on. You got to get out of there. Or
emotional overload, or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that.
Yeah. Much.
Yeah. Because that leads me to another one, which I think we've talked about, but it's absolute, goes hand in hand with that. Is that, in my perception, you could tell me what yours is, that people think that someone with autism doesn't have emotions, or they do not feel things.
Incorrect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I knew that you understand that, but I want to say that is absolutely incorrect.
Yeah.
It is much harder to express those feelings outwardly, because it's partially because trying to understand what, for me at least, I can say this, is that for me, trying to understand what I'm feeling and why I'm feeling that way, and all of that, trying to understand the emotion, it doesn't necessarily blunt it internally, but I guess it blunts it outwardly, if that makes any sense. Like it trying to understand what I'm going through, it would be more introspective versus showing it outwardly. I think that's one part of why that seems to be the case. And for another, it's could you one more time ask
that I, from being your mom, I've experienced times when people express to me that they think that because you have autism that you don't have emotions or you don't have feelings.
Right.
And I would think that, that's across the board, that's kind of a universal experience.
Yeah. I mean, as a side note, I've experienced that.
Tell me.
Where where people will find out that I have autism, and really, you don't seem like it.
And you're like, maybe not on the outside, but on the inside.
And my response at this point, at least, is that years of therapy.
Oh.
So I can joke about that, but it's true.
Yeah.
It is that I have had a lot of experience learning how to interact better in social situations. And well,
I will say that the therapies that you've been through over all these years has never been to knock the autism out of you.
Right.
It has been, and the focus still is on helping you to comfortably move through, as comfortably as you can, to move through situations successfully.
Right.
And when I use the word successfully, I mean according to you. Right? That, I mean,
in a sense,
yeah. A lot. You're laughing because because I tease with you all the time about things.
Yeah.
But how's anybody else to judge what your success is for you? It would be you. Can you go into a store now, a convenience store, and say hello to the person that works there, saying, how are you doing today? Can you go and find an item, you take it up to the counter, you put it on the counter, they tell you how much it is, and you give them money, and you leave and say, have a nice day? Absolutely you can do that.
Yeah. It's making it more natural over time that has especially been difficult.
And I think that's the thing, is that this is something that you had to learn to do.
Right.
Very different than, let's just say, when I had to learn to do it, right? Because I don't have autism. So for me, it was just the learning the common ins and outs of interaction with people.
Right.
And I saw it, and I got it, and I felt it. All right, this is how it goes. It's interesting is that people are not the same, whether they have autism or not.
Right.
So there will be somebody that's very introverted, which means that they're not very gregarious. They're not,
Instead of explaining it with a bigger word.
Oh, sorry about that.
No, I get it, but I mean...
Instead of being introverted so that they keep to themselves, maybe don't talk very much, feel more comfortable without a bunch of interaction,
They're more self-contained
mm-hmm.
than they are sociable.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference between introvert and extrovert.
Mm-hmm. So, not even talking about autism. That's the way it is. Everybody's different.
Right.
Now, when I was growing up and I just learned the things, when Nana taught me how to just to what's expected, how you handle situations, it's different because
Nana taught you that?
Well, I watched her and did the opposite. Because those of you that don't know, Nana has passed now, but boy was she, it's a 4'10", just sassy pants.
She would let you know what was on her mind, regardless of if it was appropriate or not,
or if you wanted to hear it or not. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. And so, no, you inadvertently there made a very solid point, which is that I learned in the moment. I learned from experience, and your sister learned from experience and in the moment, right? For
Mm-hmm.
you, it didn't come natural. You didn't understand that. Why do I have to, it's, it really was just trying to teach you the ins and outs of, being in society and interacting with people.
Right.
It's interesting that it was such a focus on, you say these things and you can look at people and you can give them money and then you get change back. And what if you went in and didn't say a thing and came out without saying a thing? The function would still have occurred.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So what I'm saying to you is that
I can say right now, just from my knowledge of things, both in real life and from reading,
mm-hmm.
is that can have an effect on the people that work there or anyone that else would be in there as well.
Right. My point is, though, if that's the best you can do on that given day, then that's success.
Yeah. Yeah.
If you make your way into a store, even though you're feeling very inward,
very
just
stressed and everything.
Yes, exactly. All that the weight of every sound and light and experience and just anything and everything, your thoughts are weighing you down to a point that you don't have it in you to say a word, or maybe just the word is, excuse me, maybe the word is just thanks.
Yeah.
Would that to me would be success. Do you agree with that or no?
For me, early on, yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
There are still days where I don't feel like doing that, even going out. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
And on those times where I do have to go out, even if I don't really want to, and because of autism issues,
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like I'm on autopilot at this point, where I will go through the motions. I think is how it's said, where I'll do those social niceties,
Mm-hmm.
not necessarily because I'm feeling it or behind it or whatever, but because that's what you're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's going through the motions of what is expected.
Yeah, so I think it goes back to the misconceptions that people have. And what you're saying essentially is you've matured. Through therapy, you've learned how to do these things, but they don't come natural. They
Right.
don't feel comfortable a big chunk of time.
Right.
And you just kind of do them as learned experiences, as
Right.
learned responses,
Right.
essentially. But you're still dealing with the things that initially kept you from doing that.
Right.
Which is why you needed to be shown how to do that and what to do and how to,
Right.
But I'm just saying I'm wanting to know ask you about the misconceptions that people may have or things that they think are just,
Right.
that you've come across that are just absurd. But
yeah,
yeah.
The no emotions thing
Yeah.
it's not true whatsoever. It's contemplating and understanding it and getting that through in the moment.
Yes.
Doesn't necessarily happen.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're still trying to process it, still trying to understand it. And so the closest I can think of that would be an easily found simile or whatever to it,
Mm-hmm.
of mice and men.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
Where I'm blanking on the two guys' names.
Lenny?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
where Lenny finally understood a joke that had been said a few minutes prior by his friend,
Mm-hmm.
but he started laughing because he finally got the joke.
Mm-hmm.
But right before he started laughing, there had been a group of guys who had just, one of them, who was the ringleader, so to speak, had just gotten hurt somehow or whatever, like punched in the face or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Something
Embarrassing or whatever had happened to him. And at that point is when Lenny laughed because he had just gotten the joke, and
Mm-hmm.
he wasn't there in the conversation that was occurring at the time.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So it's an inappropriate situation from an outside perspective.
Right.
Whereas in Lenny's head, he's laughing because it was something funny that he just got.
Right.
And it didn't necessarily happen just then. It happened earlier.
Mm-hmm.
That's common
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to people with autism.
Mm-hmm.
Is that connection is made just a little bit too late
Mm-hmm.
in a lot of situations. And that it ends up becoming a
Faux pas.
Very
or
much so.
yes, or inappropriate comment or misunderstood statement.
Right.
Yes, absolutely.
That could seem to come out of nowhere.
Right. But when this has happened with you,
Mm-hmm.
in your mind, in your space, in your body, this is real time.
Yeah.
For you.
Yeah.
Right? So the fact that other people have moved on, how is that your problem?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So,
and so a lot of the issues that I had and occasionally still have is, to make a light joke out of it, I guess, is that it's not of my problem. That's a you problem.
yeah.
That you then make it my problem.
That's key.
Yeah.
That's key, right?
Because I don't understand why you're upset at me
Mm-hmm.
for something that I don't understand what happened. It's a disconnect.
Well, yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up because for you can say that it's the progression of what just happened, and then you comment, so a little bit of time has gone by and you comment, and at that point then everybody is confused or not quite understanding. I see what you're saying is that that's outside of you. It's our problem because why wouldn't we understand that you were just commenting on what was just being
just ended being talked about. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And so it's taken a bit of time for me to get to the point that I can not just have those at times snappy responses, but also if it does take me time to come up with a response or an answer or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
that I'm still working through it, but I'm at this point in time, but I'm able to, for the most part, stick with the conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's nowhere near great yet. But
Well, I mean, you work at it every day. Yeah. And that's my point to you, is that with any of us, who's somebody else to judge what we're doing? Because we're doing the best we can on any given day. Let's just say we walk out of the house, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we see somebody that is not driving the speed limit. And that can be aggravating, I know, to you.
Yeah.
But we don't know what that person went through that day.
Right.
We don't know what happened to them that week or that month or that year. We just don't know.
Right.
And so their behavior then is being judged, and without any context, without any way of really fully understanding what that being has been dealing with.
Right.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like it's the same way. This is something you taught me, by the way. I wasn't always this,
chill.
Well, yeah, I guess. And, kind of meet everybody where they are. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's something that you taught me, is that the way that you do things is not wrong. It works for you. It's how you need to do it. And if it doesn't mesh with my timeline, then that's something that I've got to just kind of look at, and we try to come to a place where we coexist comfortably. Again, it goes back to people do the best they can at any given time.
Yeah.
Mostly. Yeah. We all have our lazy days where we just kind of don't really put out full effort.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's something that I learned from you, which is to not judge other people based on what they are doing at any given moment. I feel energy from people, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm going to be judgy, it's like
you know it.
Well, yeah, it's like that gut feeling, that you have as well. That all people have. A lot of times you don't listen to it. Not you personally, but people don't listen to it. But yeah, it's that gut feeling about someone or something.
Yeah.
And that's what I listen to.
Yeah.
You know, if I have a gut feeling that a person is not somebody I need to be around, then I'm not going to sit there and,
be around
them, have a conversation, whatever. I'm just going to, remove myself.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was a big one. So people that you went to a church, and the people that you went with, and they wanted to pray the autism out of you.
Unexpectedly, yes.
Wow. I didn't know that happened.
A few times.
Whoa. A few times.
A few times.
Holy moly. Wow. Did that upset you the rest of the day? Did it upset you?
A bit, yeah. Yeah, a bit.
Did you tell the people?
I couldn't in the moment.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I get it.
But, yeah, I talked to them afterwards, and... excuse me. I understand that where they were coming from.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't meaning it maliciously or anything like that. They wanted me to be okay. Right. And I get that.
Mm-hmm. Because sometimes people, if they don't know you, they look at the behaviors. And that's it. And if it doesn't fit their version, I'm putting this in quotes, like normal, then they make a judgment that that's something that needs to be adjusted. And the adjustment has come from, I get it. Look, you're diagnosed when you were 7. I had to do something, had to get you into therapies, I had to understand it to be able to help you to fit into society enough so you didn't get yourself in trouble. That's one of the reasons I did it. It was like, look, when you're 18, you can't, push yourself to the front of the line. You can't knock ladies onto the floor, get into the front of the line.
We've had. It's funny that you say that, because I remember us having conversations about things like that. When I was 15 or 16.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that I understood all this. That once I turn 18 and become
a legal adult.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If not,
right.
Whatever. But then yes, I can't. There are certain things that I certainly cannot do. Beyond that point, and that I have to be able to watch for.
Yeah, because the
society's expectations and obligations.
Yeah, but how you used to react when you were overwhelmed is different than what you do today.
Yeah.
And what you did back then needed and warranted that conversation.
Yes.
In order for you to, understand what you could and couldn't do.
Right.
It is interesting that some people would think that somebody suffers from autism.
Wow. Okay.
It's like, somebody's. Yeah.
That's like. I guess. I don't know. I've lived with it my whole life.
Right. But you don't have... You deal with things daily that... Look, if I had to deal with the things that you dealt with, I don't think I would be functioning the way you're functioning. As we talked about this before, I feel energy, but I don't deal with how things just have to be placed just so. How my steps when I walk have to be just so. How I can only wear certain things that feel a certain way. To that extent of,
Yeah.
It's intrusive.
Right.
Otherwise. Yeah, I think that, what, are you okay?
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
I unconsciously move my feet to where it intersects the angles.
Mm-hmm.
And so now that I'm consciously thinking about that because
Oh.
you just brought it up.
Sorry.
Now I'm looking. Am I doing it in the right spots? And yeah. Thanks.
Yeah, sorry. Well, some people think that autism is rare. And
what's the ratio at this point?
I'm not really sure.
I mean, last I heard it was like, what, 1 in 34 or something like that?
I don't know, but a lot of people that have autism.
Yeah.
And, to say that it's rare, I just don't believe that. I feel like not only do people think that it's rare, I've heard that
I've heard
that people don't understand, like if somebody is how and people, I'll get to a thought here, whether it's mild or it's not mild, like it's a severity level, right? And we do see differences,
mm-hmm.
but it's like you said earlier, it's the difference in what's going on the inside than what you're presenting on the outside.
Right.
Because those oftentimes just do not equal one another.
Right. And another part of that is that it's not just one emotion.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of them all at once.
Mm-hmm.
And how would your face look if you were really sad, really angry, and whatever? How would it look at that time?
Mm-hmm.
How would your face, like, expression-wise, how do you think that would look? You frowned and creased your eyebrows downward and everything. Yeah. Squinted almost, kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that kind of expression has multiple meanings behind it, right?
True.
So those two can mesh with how your face would normally look.
Mm-hmm.
But if there's more emotions in that,
mm-hmm.
and there's a lot of different signals. Do you want to smile? Do you want to frown? Do you want to cry? Do you want to just close your eyes? Whatever.
Well, sometimes this is my interpretation. Mm-hmm. So I've never said this to you before, but this is my interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just say you have a start,
mm-hmm.
right? Like the start gun goes off. Boom. Okay, these are your emotions. Well, by the time you get to the finish line, doesn't matter if it's super quick or if it's an all-day event, right?
Mm-hmm.
How it gets to a point where you're feeling things so much and so intensely that it gets to where you don't have an expression because you're exhausted.
Yeah, that too, yeah.
So
I can understand when people think that someone with autism, it doesn't have emotions. It's because we're wrung out every single day.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous.
Mm-hmm. Because there's so much going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not just that there's so much going on, it's that there's so much being taken in to try and be interpreted.
Yeah.
And trying to do... It's like an interpreter
mm-hmm.
trying to mediate between 3 different languages of groups of people,
mm-hmm.
all of them speaking all at once,
mm-hmm.
and they're the only translator.
Yes. Yeah, it's a great analogy. That's a great analogy. There's something else that I'd like to say, is that when people say, oh, it's just mild autism, because people have said this to me, oh, it's just mild autism. Well, or is it, so let me finish that thought. People saying it was just mild autism. I have become so aware through the years that people are talking about how being around you makes them feel. So they're not even ultimately talking about you, they're talking about themselves. Right?
I don't know. I don't know what you're saying.
Okay. So, yeah. Okay. So
what is this mild autism?
I know, it's a myth.
No. Okay. So, I don't know what you're...
If people are saying that a behavior doesn't work, what they're saying is your behavior doesn't work for them.
Okay.
So, again, it goes back to everybody brings their own stuff into relationships and into situations. And the one thing that I've learned from you and your friends that have autism is that you will do something and it doesn't have an ulterior motive other than what you just did. You just did it. For those around you, if they get freaked out, it's like you said, it's a you problem, it's not a me problem. So what I'm saying about when people are wanting to know, because people have asked me before, does he have mild autism? And because I'm a smart aleck sometimes, I go, it doesn't feel like it to me. Right?
Yeah.
Because to me, it's not really a realistic question.
Right. Is it mild autism or is it hot autism?
Spicy. Right.
Yeah. There's no correlation.
There is.
Let me clarify that.
Mm-hmm.
There are different severities of how
it shows up.
Yes.
Yes.
But it's not. Oh, you must have a mild form of it.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's how I'm currently capable of dealing with what comes with it.
Yeah. How you've learned to cope is
Yes.
what they're seeing.
Yes.
And if you do it well, they don't believe it.
Yeah.
Because people that aren't, look, we're talking about people like in kind of in a mocking kind of way, but what I am aware of is that we're talking about people that aren't intrinsically versed on what autism is and what it looks like and how it's different, and as it's as different as the individual is from one another. And you and I get that.
Yeah. So if it comes across as us making fun of people, we'll tell you if we're making fun of someone.
Yes, and it's and at the same time we're talking about something that can feel very frustrating because it feels very judgy. Yeah. And at the same time it's something that people don't know about. So they make assumptions.
Right.
And if that's, and there are certainly things that I don't know about, and as I learn about them, I ask a bunch of questions so that I have a better understanding of what somebody's going through.
Right, and so that's another part that I should bring up, is that people that have known me,
mm-hmm.
that I'm fairly acquainted with,
mm-hmm.
but I don't necessarily talk to in depth about things. If I bring up that I have autism, wait, what? You have autism?
Mm-hmm.
What is that like for you? Is usually a follow-up question,
mm-hmm.
but they're shocked that I have autism.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of them don't know that much about autism, for one.
So let me ask you a question about that. Does it happen most of the time when you're in an environment that you're comfortable in? That question is asked?
Which one?
That people are saying that you have autism. Like they're surprised with it.
I am the one who usually brings it up whenever that question is asked, because they're shocked, they're surprised.
What question is asked?
You have autism?
Oh, yeah. Right.
because I'm fairly well adjusted to society, I guess. I'm far from being okay, but it's one of those things
we don't, yeah. You, Josh King, are so, my goodness, you are able to express yourself. You're able to know how you feel. Now, a feeling is different than an emotion. And you've put so much work into who you are that you can tell the difference. And I'm thinking, my goodness, you know yourself better than most people know themselves. Right? And so, yeah, it's just kind of, you can put words to it often. And when you can't, that's part of who you are as well. And you remove yourself and you go and yeah, there are things that people don't think about. Like if you are busy one day, you have to have a down day.
Yeah.
A down day without anything, not even fun things. You just need time to recharge and,
right.
so that you can get back out there again.
Yeah.
But that's a real legitimate thing.
Yeah. So, I'm sorry, but to continue it.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So there are 3 responses. I think I said 2. I was incorrect. There are typically 3 different responses.
Okay.
One is the shock, do you have autism? Like, because they don't really know what autism is, and so they're surprised that someone as quote-unquote normal seeming as I can be at times have something that they're not really fully understanding. Another response is, really? You don't really seem like you have autism. And
I've heard that one a lot.
And so, like I said earlier, my typical response is years and years of therapy.
Yeah, and that's where you and I are different, because my response is, neither do you.
And then the third one is, I kind of suspected it, because they have someone that they're close to that has had it or does have it. And people don't typically ask it right out unless it's brought up.
Right.
And so it's almost like a taboo thing where you don't ask it, or you don't bring it up.
That is something as well, is that people, like a belief that, you can tell if someone has autism.
No, not a bit, but even myself, I have a feeling that someone might have autism. I don't know for sure in a lot of cases, but things tend to point towards it. Doesn't mean I know it for sure. So I ask. Right. I make sure that it's not in like a public setting.
Well, and we talk a lot about you being out in society, right? What we have family members, or we have people that we've gotten close to, and then they say that they recognize some I can't remember exactly what they've said, like behaviors or when they're around you more.
Yeah.
And what I would say is that we're talking about how you need things to be precise, you need things to be a certain way, and if
clearly stated if there's something they need or want for me to do.
Right. And you will remove yourself, on a regular basis.
To be able to continue being amongst everyone.
And look, we like football around here, right? There's times when you'll sit with us and, we'll eat whatever, watch a football game, and you enjoy that.
Yeah.
But even...
American football, by the way.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, but when you're done, you're done.
Yeah.
You just get up and go.
Yeah.
It's like any other, there's no difference in being done watching football versus anything else in your life. When you're done, you're done.
Yeah.
And where it gets very difficult is when you have to stay in a situation.
Yes.
Where you want to go.
Where
Ooh,
it's
that
not
makes it very difficult.
It's not even
No,
a
you
thing.
need to go.
I
Right?
need to go.
I
Yes.
misspoke. Where you need to go.
Yes. I wanted to make that clear.
Yeah. Thanks, because I said that wrong completely.
No.
Yeah. I think that...
One wrong word does not a wrong statement make. Can, but it doesn't always.
Some people think that only males have autism.
No. I think it comes out more in males, or is more common in males, I guess, would be the proper way of saying that.
Mm-hmm.
But women have autism too.
Yep. Let me tell you something, or ask you something. People, I've heard that, again, these questions that I've been asked is that, oh, does he spend a lot of time alone? And how would you respond to that if somebody said to you, if they found out that you have autism and they said, oh, so you must want to spend a lot of time alone? Is that a misconception to you, or is that partially true, or just depends?
It depends.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I like to... Oh, excuse me, sorry. That's what I get for drinking soda. I need time away to recharge, to be amongst people again.
Mm-hmm.
To be social again.
Right.
So it's not necessarily that I want to be alone. It's, if you want me to be around you, give me time.
So that leads me to another one that I think is that people think that people with autism are not social.
Yes and no. I mean, I like being around people that I'm friendly with and that understand me.
Mm-hmm. So you enjoy the company of others in a short spurts of time.
Yeah.
And by that I mean some depends on what it is. If it's the kids, 5 minutes.
Not
if
even.
It's right. If it's your D&D group, a couple hours.
Yeah.
You know,
and even then, I'm drained by the end of that.
Yeah.
Even if I enjoyed being around them and doing stuff with them,
right.
It's a lot it wrings me out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so what's interesting is that if people say that you are not social, I would disagree with that entirely.
That statement is I agree with you about that
okay.
that statement is false.
Yes. So let's say because to me that's somebody's version of being social. We're going to go out to a dance club. You're going to go and go and go and go, right? You know, everybody's different. You know, I love being social. I don't want to go to dance club. You know, it's just I don't want to do that.
Right, and that could be the same for the introverted extrovert.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
But I'd like to point out that your statement that I agreed with you about being incorrect was different than the one prior. That you had stated earlier.
Explain.
The first one was, do they like to be? Does your son like to be alone? Mm-hmm. Whereas the second one is, does he like to be social? Mm-hmm. Or so, whatever it was.
Right.
That's two different things.
Mm-hmm.
And being sociable is. Willing to be sociable is different than can be a facet of does he like to be alone?
Mm-hmm.
Because in my mind, at least, why are they asking that? That's a leading question to me, and it's not it's a really open question. Do they like to be alone? I guess. I mean, I go to the bathroom alone. Why would?
Yeah. Well.
And so it's very open to interpretations, whereas this being social, that's a different. It's an aspect that could lead from being alone.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
So that was my point, though, was that
okay.
it's a different question altogether.
Mm-hmm. There's something that I want your opinion on that I've been hearing. I've heard probably, I don't know, a handful of people say this lately, kind of in a, just kind of a
offhanded.
Offhanded way. Not even knowing who I am, or it's just like this figure of speech now, I guess, and that is that. Everyone is a little bit autistic. What does that mean to you? How do you interpret that? Everybody is a little bit autistic.
Okay. That's my initial thought, is to kind of disregard it.
Yeah, I don't even know what people mean by that.
It sounds, I think it's supposed to be a thing saying, I don't know.
Everybody is a little bit quirky. Everybody, I mean, it's not. Yeah, I don't know what it. It's weird. It's just that's almost degrading. I was gonna say it's dismissive, isn't it?
Yeah,
I don't like it.
Yeah, that's not very. That's like a backhanded compliment. Along those lines, is that.
Yeah, to me, and I've heard this, and I'm like, it just kind of.
Yeah.
And each time I've been in a situation where I couldn't really deal with it right then.
Right.
But I don't like it.
No.
I don't think it's accurate, and I think that it's using some outward characteristics in a way, and putting them in such a way that the mindset is that, oh, that's the best we could do. And I just said to you that people do the best they can do, right?
Right.
But it's like
But the way you said it in the situation, the context of it, gives it a different meaning. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is something I've had to learn about. But
explain that.
The different contexts, or you can have the same sentence mean something different, depending on who's saying it, how they're saying it, when they're saying it, what they're saying it about. All of those can have an effect on what they're actually saying, which is sucky to learn about.
That's tough. That's tough.
Yeah.
I think,
let alone sarcasm.
Oh, yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Now, one of the things that people have asked me over the years is that, will Josh ever be independent? And sometimes it's been in the context of, you live at home. Will you ever be comfortable living on your own?
Technically speaking, I would then live at home still. It would just be not with you guys.
Okay, so living with us versus not living with us.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I always found that kind of statement funny because of that.
You're so literal.
I know. I love it. No. Sorry, I had sidetracked you a little with that.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
You were saying...
Yeah, I feel like, I guess the thing is, too, is that it bothers me when people assume that you are lesser than because you have autism.
Right.
And, I'm not going to say that it's easy. It's been a lot of work.
It's still a lot of work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is a lot of work. But I, by no means have I ever thought that you were lesser than. There are times, look, to be honest, there have been times that I wish things were a bit easier, or a lot easier, right? Because
that's an understatement, but yes.
Yeah, we've had you've had a lot of tough times in your life, and because I'm your mom, it means I have too.
Yeah.
Right? And trying to help you through something and to deal with, navigate the school systems or the, whatever it is.
Yeah. Whatever issue you've always.
So there's been times that it's been very, very difficult, but I think to think that somebody with autism is less than or lesser than, I think that's a wrong viewpoint. I think that's something that we've always just kind of felt, is that different doesn't mean less than.
Right, and that's one thing you've also made sure to confirm with us, with me and with Haley and I, all our time growing up, was that not just us, but people are different from each other, but it doesn't make them any less of a person than you are.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And to go back to something you said earlier, and then you said on other podcasts too, internally you deal with this stuff every single day. The fact that the way you present yourself today is different than the way that you presented yourself 10 years ago, for example,
right,
is vastly different. But I would say to you that so am I. So is anybody else. As we mature and we get a better handle on things,
and life experiences.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We handle them a bit differently.
Yeah.
I think that that's, to me, probably the biggest error that people make when we're talking about what, because I was curious. This whole podcast is because I'm curious about what do people say to you or aware of you. And I have to say, if we're going to rate anything that we've talked about today, it's people trying to pray it out of you. That is shocking and uncomfortable and sad and hurtful and to me kind of abusive, and I just am not okay with that in the least. And when we do these podcasts, Josh, we talk a lot about the things that you've done, the things that you've overcome, the things that you outwardly, again, have overcome, but internally you're still dealing with them, right?
Right.
I will say that raising you was harder than what I've seen and experienced probably than your sister, right? To a point. Because one thing about you is that, there was a very, very difficult time trying to get you what you needed, the services that you needed, and you on track to being able to express yourself the way that you do now.
And that with an overarching, there was also the daily, making sure I had the socks that I needed.
The seams.
Yes.
The seams.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Or you needed a certain color of something, or it wouldn't work, or you needed a certain time, or it wouldn't work. Yeah,
and
a lot of stress.
Yeah.
A lot of stress.
Yeah.
And I think we've said before is that, and I'll say this again because I think it's a perfect time to, for parents that have a kid that has autism, you've got to do something for yourself. Yeah. You've got to do that thing. That's why I started doing stand-up. You got to do that thing that takes you...
Wait, I drove you to do comedy?
Yeah, pretty much.
Wow.
No, because it was I needed a way to express myself.
Right. You're welcome.
People need to do something for themselves. Just like I would say married people, you still got to go on dates. You have to. You have to do the things that fill you up and
make you content.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd say you can't just care for other people. You have to care for yourself and do the things for yourself that you need and that you deserve. and stepping away and giving yourself that time. Also, you come back and you parent better. You know, if you have the break, then you come back and you parent better. So it's just huge.
Well, even just in life in general, that what you had just said is a good thing to apply it. Is make sure you have time for yourself. Whether you're working too hard or for work, or in a relationship that may or may not be working, who knows?
Yeah.
Just life in general.
Yep.
Make sure you have time for yourself.
Yep, that's true. That's something that you have been a great model for doing that. Like when you want time to yourself, you're done. You're out. There's no apologies. It doesn't matter what's going on. You know what I mean? It's like that's something that I just have aspired to become over the years, just watching you, is to become this person that's just like, yeah, that doesn't work for me. I'm done. You know? If it doesn't work for me, I don't want to do it. If it doesn't work for me, I don't want to. No. And I've learned that from watching you. And I really do think that a lot of times people think, oh, well, he just left. It's like that. I'm like, yeah, he was done. You know?
Yeah.
So it's one of those things that
I think I've actually heard you mention that when I'm walking away.
Yeah. No, he's done. No, don't worry.
Yeah.
He
said that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to do that. I want to be you in that regard. I just want to be, I'm out. I'm done.
Yeah.
Yep. So anyway, well, it's been an hour now.
Wow.
And yeah. And you stuck with me, so thank you. I appreciate that. We probably barely covered all the things that people have said and thought, and, you know, just...
in regards to me having autism?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But, you know, this is what we got to in an hour, so there we go. But, yeah, that was fun. I learned a lot from you today in this conversation, too, so that's cool. Everybody, thank you for hanging out with us. Once again, we enjoy you so much and appreciate you even more. Yeah. And send us messages, sonyaking.com. That's sonyaking.com. That's my website. I'd love to hear from you. Give us 5 stars if you like what we're doing. And looks like we're about to get a sponsor. And so what I guess that will be is that in between this conversation will be like a little blip of a commercial. And that helps us.
Yeah.
So that's real cool. We can upgrade our systems here maybe, but that would be kind of cool. Yeah. Anyway, everybody, you're heading into a weekend. Be safe out there. It's hot everywhere. Make sure you drink a lot of water. Stay in the shade. Get in a pool, even if it's a blow-up pool. And we just got a blow-up pool for the kids. And, man, the dogs will not stay out of it.
Yeah. Didn't one of them actually poke a hole in one of them? And then,
no.
And then we had to replace it or something?
No, they thought they did, but they didn't.
Okay.
Yeah, it was okay. I was able to put more air in it.
Okay.
Anyway, so have a wonderful weekend, and thanks for hanging out with us. Love ya.
Bye.